Tat Sat. Welcome to Gyan Bhakti. We are currently exploring the scripture Mysticism of Srimad Bhagavatam. Commentaries by my worshipful Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayananda ji Maharaj, narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. So let us continue our journey on the Samyantak Mani and Lord Krishna's finding it and all the mystical implications. Shatdhanva kills Satrajit and steals the jewel. So continuing the journey from there, Samyantak Mani remained in the hands of Satrajit until two relatives of Krishna, Akrura and Kritavarma, initiated the next phase of its intricate history. In accord with the mysterious unfoldment of the divine plan, Akrur and Kritavarma encouraged another relative named Shatdhanva to kill Satrajit and rob him of the jewel. They seduced Shatdhanva by telling him that Satrajit really did not deserve the jewel and that Satrajit's daughter Satyabhama should have been given in marriage to him or to someone else other than Krishna. Easily manipulated and driven by greed, Shatdhanva stealthily entered the house where Satrajit was sleeping. He killed him and stole the jewel. So next, Krishna slays Shatdhanva. When the murder of Satrajit was discovered, Satyabhama was terribly grief-stricken. In response, Krishna and Balram quickly made preparations to find and destroy Shatdhanva and retrieve the jewel. Realizing that Krishna and Balarama were after him, Shatdhanva begged for help from Kritvarma and Akrura, but both men said that they were powerless to interfere with the will of Krishna. In despair, Shatdhanva entrusted the jewel to Akrura and fled on horseback. Krishna and Balarama chased Shatdhanva to Mithila, the capital city of King Janak. There, Shatdhanva abandoned his fallen horse and tried to escape on foot. However, he was overtaken very quickly by Krishna, who discharged his special discus, Sudarshan Chakra, and cut off his head. Krishna and Balrama looked for the jewel in the body of the slain murderer, but did not find it. They realized then that the jewel had been given into the hands of Akrura. When Akrur and Kritvarma realized that Shatdhanva had been killed, they were afraid that Krishna might kill them as well, since they were the ones who had encouraged Shatdhanva. Terrified, they ran away from Dwarka. Krishna entrusts Akrura with the jewel. As soon as Akrura left the city, all rain stopped falling in Dwarka. This was due to a special power Akrura possessed that made nature gracious and favorable wherever he dwelled. So Krishna was aware of this and gently summoned Akrura to return without fear. When he did so, the rainfall returned to normal. Krishna spoke in a respectful fashion to Akrura and asked that he show all people the jewel that had been in his possession since the flight of Shatdhanva. Akrura was touched by Krishna's conciliatory demeanor and brought forth the shining jewel, placing it in Krishna's hands. Then Krishna thereby cleared of all the false accusations brought against him, reverentially returned the treasure to Akrura and entrusted him with its future care. Mystical meaning, clearly it is necessary to understand the deeper mystical meaning behind the actions of Akrura, Kritvarma and Shatdhanva. These men, who are all relatives of Krishna, seem absurdly irrational, greedy and violent. Viewed in the light of Vedanta, however, they become noble agents in the evolution and enlightenment of the soul. They are instrumental in bringing about the destruction of Satrajit, a soul conditioned by ego consciousness and confined to the level of sakamya karma, action that maintains rather than annihilates individuality. It is impossible for a doll made of salt to enter the ocean, fathom its depths, and yet still remain intact. The individuality of the doll inevitably must dissolve away in the ocean. Similarly, the experiences of higher samadhi cannot be enjoyed by ego consciousness. That ego consciousness, symbolized by Satrajit, must inevitably be dissolved as spiritual evolution progresses. Akrura and Kritvarma also bring about the death of Shatadhanva. Shata means 100 and Dhanva means bow and arrow. Shatadhanva represents the chitta or mind, which shoots out thought waves like arrows in all directions. In the course of spiritual evolution, mind must be used to destroy ego, representing Satrajit. And then mind itself must also be destroyed in the realm of enlightenment. After the mind has been overtaken by Krishna's divine wisdom and Balrama's divine will, that mind has undergone destruction. Destroying the mind does not imply literal destruction, but rather rendering the mind so pure that it is unable to cause bondage. This is the state of the mind of a Jivan Mukta, one who is liberated in life. Samyantak Mani eventually rests in the hands of Akrura. Akrura symbolizes a state of compassion and absence of violence. Krur means violent, Akrur, non-violent. When one attains enlightenment, the destroyed mind is not rendered barren, but rather it is rendered fit to hold the jewel of divine wisdom. It becomes filled with Shubha Vasanas or pure impressions. These Shubha Vasanas are represented by the rain, which will come when we have compassion and non-violence in our heart. When Akrura dwells in the region of Dwarka, Krishna's kingdom. Throughout this complex story that traces the movements of Samyantak Mani from one hand to another, Krishna is accused of coveting the jewel and causing terrible hardship. This is often true too in the life of an aspirant. Each time we have an intense desire for something, but according to the divine plan, that desire is frustrated. We are left in a state of agitation. Due to ignorance, we begin to feel that somehow God is jealous and wants to rob us of the treasure of our happiness, and we blame God for all our troubles. The fact is, of course, that God is never jealous nor desirous of hurting us. Indeed, God is not someone other than ourselves. God is our innermost identity. Summarily, this episode in the life of Lord Krishna brings out the mystic fact that Samyantak Mani, a special type of intuitive light, is not to be directed towards attainment of psychic powers, but it should be used for attaining liberation or mukti. However, the deluded ego in the aspirant tries to possess it but does not succeed. Eventually, the jewel lands in the hands of Jambavan, the spirit of Samadhi. After an intense spiritual process, the jewel comes in the hands of God. Then Krishna, the unfolding spirit within, is wedded to Jamavanti, the insight arising out of profound Samadhi. Krishna is further wedded to Satyabhama, the light of truth. Satya means truth, leading to the destruction of the ego and dissolution of the manifold desires of the mind. Jambavanti and Satyabhama are special attributes of God that begin to manifest as an aspirant climbs the ladder of liberation. Finally, the mind becomes freed of distraction, Shatadhanva, and is established in non-violence or akrura. The jewel then rests securely in the purified mind. Thus, a Jivan Mukta or a liberated sage is the only person who is fit to possess this amazing power, and having possessed it, he becomes a dynamic force for the promotion of all that is good and beautiful in humanity. So, with this, we conclude our satsang for today. I will see you tomorrow. This is Swami Nikhilanand. Om Tat Sat.